Panasonic has just announced their latest camera, which is the Panasonic Lumix S5. That is the camera I'm using right now to shoot this video. This is Panasonic's smallest and also lightest full-frame camera. It has a flip-out screen, it has the in-body image stabilizer, and it can also capture 4K video up to 30 frames per second with no crop, or up to 60 frames per second with some crop. So it seems like it is a pretty good full-frame camera for people who want to do a bit of vlogging. At least on paper it seems to be. So that's why I want to take the S5 out and do some vlogging in the real world and just see whether it is actually a good vlogging camera or not. Now, if you have done some vlogging before, I think you'll probably agree with me that the picture quality itself is only half the picture if you want to create some good quality vlogging video. The audio quality is pretty much just as important. Right now, I'm using the built-in microphone to capture the audio, but the S5, it does have a microphone input jack. So I have this shotgun mic here. This is the Meike MK-MP2. It is a microphone that Maki has sent me a little while ago for a review, and I have been using it, testing it quite a bit indoor, and audio quality sounds pretty good, but I haven't used it outdoor yet. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to actually test out the S5 and this mic together when I go out and shoot some vlogging video outdoor. So let me actually mount it onto the camera first. Okay, now I have the Maki microphone connected to the S5, so the audio from now on will be all recorded using the Maki microphone. How does it sound like compared to just before when I was using the built-in microphone? But anyway, the weather has been pretty crappy so far this week, so finally today the weather seems pretty good. So let's go out before the weather turns crap again and do some vlogging and test out the camera and the microphone. I remember when I was working on the Lumix S1R review, that was a year or so ago. I tried to use those cameras to shoot some vlogging footage, but those cameras are quite big, quite heavy. It doesn't have the flip-out screen that I can see myself when shooting vlogging, so end up I have to attach Atomos Ninja 5 on top, which make the camera even bigger and heavier. And also the kit lens back then was the 24-105, which is a very good lens, but the problem is it's also quite big and quite heavy, so altogether make it very heavy and big package for vlogging. If you hold it like this, I think like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, or if you have a strong arm, maybe 30 seconds, and your arm will start to feel tired. So now with the S5, it is much smaller camera, much lighter. It has the flip-out screen, and also very importantly, it has the new kit lens, which is the 2060. Quite a bit smaller, lighter than the 24-105, and also the wide end is 20mm instead of 24, so that make it a lot better for vlogging, because my face wouldn't be filling up the whole screen so easily. Or also I can just hold the camera a little bit closer if I want to, and that still wouldn't have my face completely filled up the screen compared to using a 24mm lens. So yeah, it's also true that I would lose quite a bit of the telephoto end, because only can go up to 60 compared to 105. But I think the trade-off of getting a slightly wider and also a lighter lens, I definitely prefer this 2060 lens. One thing I really like about the Panasonic Lumix G100, which is the micro four thirds camera that Panasonic has released recently, is the microphone system on the G100. The G100 has a multiple microphone setup that is built in onto the camera, and it also uses the audio technology. So together it captured very high quality audio just using the built-in microphone, and it also has some pretty cool tricks. For example, it can capture audio only from a certain direction, and it can do pretty good wind noise reduction and some other things. So I'm a little bit disappointed that the S5 doesn't have the same microphone system as the G100, but that's okay because at least it has a the microphone jet that right now I plug in the Maki microphone, so that's why I'm doing a review of both the camera and the microphone at the same time. And I remember when Maki they told me about this microphone and asked me if I want to do a review about this microphone. I look at the specs and I was like, okay, it uses a AAA battery life seems pretty good. It has a what's that, low pass filter, yeah, low pass filter. Oh no, it's a high pass filter, sorry, and it can do a boost of the audio by the switch. So it seems it has some basic feature, but nothing more than that. So it looks a bit boring, I would say. And I was saying, oh, it seems like quite a basic microphone, so it doesn't look really interesting. But then they told me the price. The price is, I think, $39 US dollar. So I heard the price and I was like, okay, well, if you consider the price, then suddenly it does look like a pretty interesting microphone, because compared to most of the other microphone in the market, for example, the Rode video mic or the Sennheiser shotgun mic that I usually use, those microphones are a lot more expensive compared to this Meike MK-MP2. I hope I got the code name right. So the Maki is only like maybe 15% the price of those other microphone. And if the audio quality is good, that is very important. The audio quality has to be good, or has to be at least quite decent. Then it could be quite a good choice for people who want to do a bit of vlogging or video streaming, and they don't need any of those fancy feature, and they just want a good quality microphone that is very affordable. So that could be a good choice. So that's why I accepted, like, okay, I'm happy to do a review, just see how good or not good the microphone is. So all the audio that is captured in this video is using the Maki microphone. So you can be the judge to see how good or not good the audio quality is from this Maki microphone. As a vlogging camera, I think there are two things that is quite important. The first one is the autofocus. I think this is probably not Panasonic's strongest area, and in the past I have done a lot of autofocus tests on this channel. But to be fair, I think Panasonic has improved their autofocus system quite a lot over the last 2-3 years. If you compare GH5 with the original firmware and the latest one, I think the autofocus performance with the latest firmware is just a lot more reliable, a lot more consistent. With the S5, I have been doing quite a bit of testing, and I noticed that in photo mode, when you're shooting in AFC mode, when you have the camera that is static and your target is static, with the previous S series camera, when you half click the shutter button, you will see quite a bit of background pulsing, because it's trying to make sure it's following lock on the target. But with the S5, the amount of background pulsing seems to be a lot less than the previous camera. I'm not saying there's no background pulsing, but yeah, it is just a lot less than the previous models. And when you are shooting video, I also find it to be a lot more consistent, a lot more reliable, and also it seems to manage to track and follow the subject a lot better. Even if it's like suddenly got blocked by something else a little bit, it still would try to stay on the target that you want to follow. And sometimes when it lost the target, it seems to be able to manage to get back and snap back to the target within probably half a second or 1 second or so. At least that's how I feel. But how I like to do review is usually, instead of just telling you what it is, I would like to show you the result. So pay attention to this video when you are watching this vlogging video, and let me know what do you think about the autofocus performance of this Panasonic Lumix S5. Another thing that I found is also quite important for a vlogging camera is the image stabilization. Most of the time when you are shooting vlogging video, you'll be walking around and holding the camera probably with only one hand, so having a good image stabilization system can help stabilize the footage, and that just make the vlogging video a lot more enjoyable to watch. Now with the S5, it has the in-body image stabilizer, but the kit lens, the 2060 kit lens, it doesn't have OIS. What that means is you wouldn't be able to enjoy the Dual IS or Dual IS2 if you are just shooting video with the 2060 kit lens. But if you want to have more stabilized than just using the IBIS, you can turn on the EIS. And now I have just turned on the EIS, which is the electronic image stabilization, which should give me more stabilized footage compared to just rely on the IBIS. But the downside of turn on EIS is that there will be a 10% crop compared to not having EIS, because the camera need a bit of space to just move the image around so that it can apply the electronic image stabilization. But because the kit lens is 20-60, that means the wide end 20mm, even with 10% cropping, it's still like around 22mm, which I think is wide enough for a vlogging camera setup. The construction and build quality of the Maki shotgun mic seems to be pretty good. It definitely feels a little bit plasticky, but consider the price is just around $40 US. I think the plasticky is quite acceptable. So there are 3 switches at the back of the microphone. There's one for turn on, turn off, there's one for the high pass filter, and there's one for the 10 dB boost if you are filming in places that you have to be really quiet, or if your camera's preamp is not good, maybe you just turn on that plus 10 dB, so allow the microphone to increase the output rather than rely on the camera's preamp to amplify the audio signal, which should give you better audio quality compared to a crappy preamp on the camera. The microphone has a flexible mount, so it should help reduce the noise caused by vibration. For example, now I'm walking on a pretty bumpy ground, so with the flexible mount, it should help reduce the vibration noise. And it has a foam-like cover for the microphone, but it does not have any dead cat that comes with the microphone, and probably not easy to find a dead cat aftermarket one that would fit exactly well on this microphone. Right now I'm shooting on a windy day, not like super windy, but it is definitely pretty windy, so you can tell whether not having a dead cat is a problem or not in terms of the audio captured by this Maki mic. Not too sure exactly who started this trend, but these days a lot of people like to include either a bit of slow motion video or time-lapse video into their vlogging video to make it a little bit more cinematic. So with the S5 you can shoot either slow motion or time-lapse video just straight out of camera, and there is also a new SNQ mode on the mode dial which allow you to quickly switch to the slow motion or time-lapse video. Compared to previously, you have to go into the menu and find the menu and then turn it on. The new mode on the mode dial make it a lot easier. If you are shooting slow motion video in the full HD resolution, you can shoot up to 180 frames per second. Now at 180 frames per second, there will be a bit of cropping. If you change to 150 frames per second, then there's no cropping. With pretty much all the previous Panasonic mirrorless camera, when you are shooting slow motion video, there's no autofocus, which is something I've complained quite a bit in the past. With the S5, you can now have autofocus when you are shooting slow motion video, and that is up to 120 frames per second. So yeah, if you're shooting 150 frames per second in Full HD resolution, then there's no autofocus, but if you go to 120 frames per second or lower, then you can enjoy the autofocus finally on a Panasonic camera when you are shooting your slow motion video. The Panasonic Lumix S5 can record 4K video in 10-bit up to 60 frames per second, and you can record it either internally or externally. And it also has the Vlog picture profile, and these are all already enabled by default when you purchase the camera. So unlike S1 and GH5, you don't have to separately purchase upgrade key to enable either of these features. So it'll be great for people who want to do a bit of vlogging under very high contrast scene, for example in the middle of the day. The 14 stop plus dynamic range that you can record using the 10-bit vlog setting on the S5 should be much better than the normal 8-bit footage. Now, one thing I do notice though is because the camera's DFD autofocus system rely on contrast for it to work, Vlog compress the contrast. So especially if you are in the shadow area when your face is actually underexposed a bit, when you do that and you have the Vlog enabled, the autofocus seems to be not quite as stable as it normally would. So you may notice a bit of background pulsing, for example. If you notice that happens, maybe switch back to the normal picture profile, or you could try increase the exposure a bit so your face is probably exposed. Try either of this. I find that should help make the autofocus performance a lot more stable. If for some reason the 20-60mm kit lens is not wide enough for you, the good news is there are more and more L-mount lenses that is available. For example, Panasonic has the 16-35 f4 lens, and there are also many other third-party lens manufacturers starting to make more L-mount lenses. For example, right now I actually just swapped the lens to the new Laowa 11mm f4.5 lens, which is a ridiculously wide full-frame lens. Let me show you how wide it is. Right now, the camera, I actually hold it very close to my face, like about just a little bit over 1 palm length. And if I hold it in the normal position, it would be like this. So it is very wide compared to the 20-60mm. If you want to have an ultra wide angle lens for vlogging, you should check out this Laowa lens, which I think should be announced pretty much the same time as the S5 announcement. So go check out my channel, you should be able to find a review of this lens as well. If you are a little bit clumsy like me and had the experience before that you thought you shot some awesome footage for your vlogging video and turns out you forgot to press the record button, or you pressed the wrong button. Now there is a pretty good feature on the S5 which is called the red record frame indicator. There's a feature, if you turn on, then when you are shooting video, then you can see a red frame that is surrounding your LCD monitor. So that would tell you whether you are actually recording your video or not. I mentioned in the beginning that I usually use a Sennheiser shotgun mic to shoot my vlogging footage, which is this one. This is the MKE400 Sennheiser mic. I'm going to do a bit of comparison. Now, right now I'm recording using the Maki mic with the default setting. So just see how the audio is like with the Maki mic, and I walk back a little bit and how the audio sounds like now, and I'm going to walk back a little bit, still recording using the Maki mic, and now I'm going to switch to the Sennheiser mic. I have switched to my Sennheiser MKE400 shotgun mic now. This is a much more expensive microphone compared to the Maki. I think the Sennheiser is around $200 to $300 US compared to Maki, which is just under $40. So how's the audio quality like compared with like these two microphones? Let me walk back a little bit. How's the audio quality like when I'm slightly further away? And now walking back, also testing the autofocus, see if the autofocus can follow my face fast enough and accurate enough. Okay, I'm now going to switch back to my Maki mic. Before we finish off this video, there's one more test that I want to do. Now, because of the COVID virus, wearing masks becomes something that a lot of us have to do pretty much every day. So I just want to do a quick test to see whether the S5 can still track and follow my face when I'm wearing a mask. So let's do one quick test and see whether the S5 can do it or not. Okay, looks like it definitely can still see my face and my eye as well, even though I'm wearing a cap. Seems pretty good. What if I jump out of the frame and come back? Alright, looks like the S5 is a mask approved face tracking camera.